Are you struggling to understand how firms account for GST? This video will give you some tips to help you when accounting for GST comes up for you in the future. GST comes up in a lot of different transactions for a firm, so we need to understand the basics of how to account for GST right at the beginning of our study of accounting. The first tip is that typically all items in a firm's income statement are exclusive of GST. This means that when Coles sells you a chicken for $8, it will only include $7.27 as revenue. The rest, 73 cents, is the GST Coles has collected from you for the government. This amount is kept in a separate account, GST collected. Revenue accounts are usually shown exclusive of GST because the GST a firm collects from its customers is not its own revenue. Rather, it is money the firm collects for the government. The same also applies to a firm's expenses. Coles may have bought that chicken for $6.50. It would only include $5.91 as an expense in its accounts. The rest, 59 cents, is the GST Coles has paid to its suppliers and which it can claim back from the government. This amount is kept in a GST paid account. By keeping the GST collected in its own account separate to its revenue, a firm can carefully identify GST and manage it separately to the firm's revenue. The same applies to its expenses. The same also typically applies to all items in a firm's balance sheet. These are usually stated exclusive of GST. A key exception to this is accounts receivable and accounts payable. These items in the balance sheet are usually shown inclusive of GST. This means that unlike most items in the balance sheet, accounts receivable and accounts payable do include GST. This is because our customers owe us the GST inclusive amount, not just the part that is our revenue. And we owe our suppliers the GST inclusive amount, not just that part that is our expense. When we chase up our accounts receivable, customers who owe us money, we need to collect from them the full GST inclusive amount. And our suppliers expect us to pay them the full GST inclusive amount as well. Firms often handle GST in three separate accounts: GST collected, GST paid, and GST payments refunds. As there are no standard terms in accounting, these accounts can have a range of different names in practice. You'll have lots of opportunities in our unit and throughout your degree to practice how we account for GST. You'll see GST comes up a lot in accounting. Further key details about how we account for GST are in Chapter 4, Section 4.1 and Chapter 2, Section 2.2 in our study guide. To find out more about how GST works in Australia, go to the links in the description below this video.